Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. First story of the video is a classic. A Karen who can't read a pickup label steals someone else's porker and then goes full scorched earth on a teenage worker who did absolutely nothing wrong. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Jimmy John's Karen blames a teen for her mistake. I'm 16 and work at Jimmy John's, and on this particular day I was finishing up a line of pickup orders during a rush. Nothing crazy, just the usual chaos of sandwiches flying everywhere and customers breathing down the glass like it's a zoo enclosure. One of the orders I clearly remember making was for this woman, Karen, because it was 3 turkey bourbons with extra pickles. Easy enough. And I remember stacking those pickles like I was building a wall. So I finish your order, bag it neatly, set it on the pickup ledge where customers grab their food, and immediately start another order for someone who had also come in and was waiting. That second order had a 17 in it, the ultimate porker. So I finished that sandwich first, put it on the counter while I was starting on the second one, and kept moving. Standard rhythm. Karen finally wanders up to the pickup ledge, grabs her bag, and apparently decides she's also going to take the 17 that was sitting next to it. I didn't see her take it, I was focused on making the last sandwich, but I sure heard her when she came storming back. She stomps up to the counter, slams the 17 down, and starts yelling at my manager, who was standing right next to me. Not talking, yelling, full caps lock. She's yelling about how she's tired of you guys always effing up my orders, and this is like the 4th time you people have messed up my food. Then she looks at me dead in the eyes and goes, "If he's the one effing up my orders all the time, you need to fire his butt." As if I wasn't standing right there. As if I was some toddler or emotional support animal and couldn't possibly speak for myself. And the thing is, I was so shocked she was talking to me like that I genuinely couldn't find words. I just stared at her like, "Ma'am, what dimension are you from?" She demands that we remake her sandwich, so my manager grabs the 17 and tosses it in the trash without thinking, since Karen had already dug into it and contaminated it. I'm remaking her food while she hovers with this angry mom energy, acting like we personally ruined her entire week. Once she gets her order, which wasn't wrong to begin with, by the way, she just took the wrong sandwich, she doesn't apologize, doesn't even acknowledge she caused the whole problem. She just lowers her tone and starts rambling again about how this always happens and you guys need to get it together. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, lady, I've never seen you in my entire life. If this supposedly happened 4 times, then either you're confusing us with another sandwich place, or you just like yelling at teenagers for sport. After she leaves, we go to pack the 17 for the actual next customer and immediately realize it's missing because it's currently sitting in the trash can. My manager just stares at the bin like, "Oh." The woman who actually ordered the 17 shows up a few minutes later and is super chill about it. No yelling, no attitude, just no worries, I can wait. So, shout out to her for being the opposite of the chaos gremlin who came before. So yeah, if you were at the South Hill Jimmy John's in Spokane and you decided to scream at a 16-year-old ginger like he personally offended your ancestors because you grabbed the wrong sandwich, we can run it in the parking lot if you want, bro. I clock out at 8. The fact she never acknowledged that she caused the issue shows she wasn't interested in fairness, only in being right. You did your job correctly. She simply refused to take responsibility for grabbing food that wasn't hers. And our second story. You don't want to see the doctor right here? No problem. I was an ER charge nurse a few years back at a busy facility. In order to increase capacity during busier times, we frequently would bring patients to hallway gurneys to be seen by the doctor. It's not a great setup, literally just a journey in the hallway in front of the nursing desk, but if the rooms are clogged with patients waiting on beds upstairs, etc., it's a commonly used workaround. So one night a few years back, we're busy, and non-emergent patients are waiting for hours in the lobby. I'm using hallway gurneys to increase throughput. I'm putting stable patients who don't need cardiac monitors into the hallway, so I bring the next patient from the lobby to a hall gurney. Let's call her Karen. Karen's complaining because she's been waiting hours. Since American healthcare is all about kissing butt and patient satisfaction, I can't tell her that she's been waiting because her medical complaint would be dumb to take to urgent care, let alone an emergency room. We get to the hallway spot, and she pitches a fit. "I've been waiting for hours. I deserve to be in a room, not the hallway," and other crap like that. She sees an open doorway to an empty room and demands that we go there. I say that a different patient will be going into that room and explain that Karen doesn't need a cardiac monitor for her visit. Karen crosses her arms and says something like, "I don't care. That room is available, so you have to let me use it." I had a department to run, and I was tired of her entitled bullcrap. Pointing at the hallway gurney, I said, "Are you refusing to see the doctor in this space?" Her eyes lit up, apparently thinking she had won, and Karen said, "Yes, I won't be seen right here." I said, "No problem." I waved at the security guard a few yards away and said, "Hey, Tom, this lady would like to leave now." Karen looked shocked and then started saying she never said that. I reminded her that she clearly stated she refused to be seen in this bed, so she was going to have to continue to wait in the lobby until a room became available. She tried to backtrack and say something like, "Fine, I'll see the doctor here." I just shook my head and said, "It's too late for that. You already refused. Tom will escort you back to the lobby, and we'll call you back to a room as soon as we can." Security walked her to the lobby, and she pretty quickly decided to just leave without being seen. ETA, I'm being vague on some points on purpose, HIPAA, but her particular complaint was a bullcrap reason to come to the ER. She was not going to have to disrobe or change into a gown, so visual privacy was not a real concern. It was a more private environment than a crowded lobby, that's for sure. I would also like to say that I was doing her a favor by letting her be seen in the hallway. I had real emergencies that needed the monitored beds, and it would have been negligent of me to give her one of those beds while making a real emergency wait longer. I was putting non-emergent patients into hallway beds to do them a favor so that they could be seen and discharged sooner. My staff was already busy with their own patients, so these were my own patients that I was fitting in while running a 50-bed ER. What people don't understand is that being made to wait in the ER is usually a good thing. It means that you're not at risk of losing life, limb, or eyesight. Yeah, you might not feel great, but either way, you'll get seen. And our next story. We caught a stranger casually strolling through our property. His wife says we treated him like a criminal. My boyfriend, Lucas, 31-year-old male, and I, 30-year-old female, live in an older corner lot house with a decent-sized detached garage behind it. Our driveway runs along the left side of the house. The front faces a small residential road. The right side borders a high wooden fence belonging to our neighbor, and behind us is a narrow alleyway. It's not secluded, but it's not exactly open for strangers to wander either. A couple days ago, while we were both at work, our phones buzzed at the exact same time. Our security system had flagged motion in the driveway. Honestly, half the time it's a stray cat or a delivery truck cutting through. But when I opened the live feed, I immediately saw a man I didn't recognize strolling up our driveway with a large off-leash dog. At first I thought, oh, maybe the dog got loose. There's a guy who lives a few houses down who owns a similar-looking dog, but I'd never spoken to him or seen him up close, so I wasn't sure if it was the same person. I expected to see a frantic pet owner trying to wrangle a runaway dog. Nope, this man had his hands in his pockets, casually strolling around as if he owned the place. The dog was sniffing everything it could, weaving around the side of our house. The guy followed it at a lazy pace, not calling it, not looking concerned, not even trying to redirect it. Then he let the dog walk right through the gate into our backyard. That gate's usually closed, but the wind had blown it slightly ajar the night before. The man watched his dog slip through it and just stood there, hands still in pockets, staring into our open garage like he was checking inventory. Then he turned and peered into our covered back porch for a while. That's when I used the speaker. "Hello," I said. My voice echoed through the camera system, loud enough that you'd think anyone with a pulse would jump or at least react. Nothing. I tried again. "Is that your dog?" He finally answered, "Yeah." That was it. No explanation, no apology, no attempt to remove said dog. He just kept lingering around the garage while the dog explored deeper into our yard. At that point, Lucas chimed in from his phone. "Can you please get off my property?" The man paused, then slow walked into the backyard, grabbed his dog by the collar, and let it out. He didn't say a word. He didn't hurry. He looked more annoyed than anything. That evening, when I was cleaning up dinner, I checked my phone and saw a Facebook message request from a woman I didn't recognize. Turns out it was the guy's wife, Sandra, ready to unleash a Shakespearean monologue. Her message accused us of publicly humiliating her husband, treating him like a criminal, acting superior because we have more money, and embarrassing him in front of the neighborhood. She even threw in that he was just walking his dog and we had no right to shame him. Lucas and I both stared at the message like it had bite marks in it. I replied with a short, polite message explaining he was on private property without permission. He ignored multiple attempts at communication, and we asked him to leave because, shocker, strangers wandering around our property with unleashed animals is uncomfortable and unsafe. She sent one more rant, then blocked me. Honestly, we've been on high alert lately. There have been multiple car break-ins on our street over the last 2 weeks, and Lucas himself got bitten by a loose dog last month while taking an evening walk. We've been talking seriously about moving somewhere quieter and safer. So yeah, maybe our nerves were a little tense, but even without all that, who lets their dog wander onto someone else's property and into their fenced backyard? The next morning, our next-door neighbor told us he saw the guy walking his dog again, on leash this time, and apparently complaining loudly about being treated like a trespasser. Funny how that works. We haven't heard from either of them since, which is honestly ideal. The camera system stays on, the gate stays latched, and if someone wants to take a scenic tour of my garage again, they can expect the same greeting they got last time. If anything, we were nicer than the situation deserved. If someone did that to their property, I doubt we'd get the same courtesy. I don't see how you treated them like trash. All you did was ask someone randomly wandering inside your property to please leave. Nobody's okay with people just walking around their homes and with their dog at that. Not sure how much nicer you could have handled that. And our last story. He was a one-man HOA board who let our pool become a crime den. One meeting with the financial records was all it took to end his reign. For the past 2 summers, I've been living across from my neighborhood pool and parking lot, and unfortunately, these 2 areas have turned into a magnet for crime. I bought my first home here at 24, thinking the HOA dues would mean structure, safety, and maybe even a community that cared. Instead, I inherited an HOA with 1 board member, the president, no treasurer, no secretary, no checks and balances. He claims nobody ever shows up to vote, and because of that, he has full control. Full control and 0 accountability. Every night, people hop the pool fence, party until midnight, blast music, sell illegal stuff, break things, and then scatter when the police arrive. Last night alone, the cops shut down a crowd of at least 40 young adults. They ran in every direction, and some tore through my property as they bolted. It was loud, it was chaotic, it was dangerous, and it was the exact kind of night I've lived with for 2 summers straight. I've been trying to fix things. I suggested affordable, reasonable solutions, adding a Ring subscription for 24/7 dispatch, installing bird spikes on the fence to stop people from jumping it, putting up signs with pool hours and no trespassing notices, adding lights, anything to make the area less attractive to criminals. The property manager didn't even finish reading my email before saying no. Her exact reasoning? We didn't budget for security. Keep calling the police. So even though our HOA dues are supposed to go toward maintaining the amenities remain wide open for anyone who wants to use them illegally. Somehow there's allegedly no money for security, no money for improved lighting, no money for deterrence, but the president still approved new townhomes on the empty lots next to his own house, claiming it would reduce crime where he lives. Funny how he only solves problems that affect him. That was the moment I realized we might be dealing with something more than incompetence. It felt shady, so I decided to pull the HOA financials before our upcoming meeting because the math wasn't adding up. Meanwhile, the president's only advice continues to be call the cops, which sounds good on paper, but does nothing to stop the constant trespassing or property damage. There's no enforcement, no oversight, no responsibility. Even the Ring cameras they installed are useless. He turns off notifications at night. He isn't monitoring any of it, and yet he insists the cameras are the solution. People before me let things slide, and over the years, the pool became the perfect hideout for crime. That stops now. My meeting with the property manager and the president's coming up, and I need solutions, answers, and accountability. I'm exhausted, and this is my breaking point. I'm done living across from a war zone disguised as an HOA amenity. The meeting did not go the way the HOA president expected. I came prepared with the financial statements, highlighted inconsistencies, screenshots of nighttime trespassing, timestamps from police visits, and a breakdown of the low-cost security measures I'd proposed. The room shifted immediately. The property management rep looked embarrassed. A few homeowners who overheard the commotion began drifting in. Suddenly, we have a quorum. And that was the president's worst nightmare. When I pointed out that budget records didn't match the president's statements, the rep confirmed the obvious: there was money allocated for improvements to the pool area. The president simply never requested bids, never filed work orders, and never disclosed that he'd diverted funds to prepare the lots next to his own property for development. In other words, the reason the rest of us lived with crime is because he prioritized his own comfort over ours. The room erupted. Homeowners who hadn't attended a meeting in years finally had something worth showing up for. Within minutes, people started nominating replacements, a vote was called, and because enough owners were now present, the vote became official. The HOA president was removed on the spot. Property management immediately scheduled bids for lighting, signs, and fencing deterrents. A new 3-member board was formed that same night. Several residents requested a formal audit into the president's past expenditures. Based on what the property manager said afterward, he'll likely face civil consequences for misusing HOA funds. The pool is now locked, monitored, and patrolled by paid security during peak hours. Crime has dropped dramatically, and for the first time since I moved in, I feel safe in my own house. The old president moved out quietly 2 months later, and the neighborhood hasn't missed him for a second. This is a textbook example of what happens when an HOA becomes a one-person operation. No oversight, no accountability, and no incentive to act unless the issue affects them personally. You stepped into a situation everyone else tolerated for years, and the moment you brought transparency and proof, the structure collapsed. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.